Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the world of Aja Pearl. It's my world, and I'm so happy you're here. So, today we have another lovely guest. She is a model and a fellow podcaster, just like me, so this should be interesting. Please welcome Erica Marie Avila. How are you, Queen?
Thank you. Thank you, Aja. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here and finally meet you, right?
Yeah.
More than just like a little bit of communication here and there.
Hmm.
We were scheduled once before. I had to reschedule, unfortunately, because I wasn't feeling very well and I worked late. And you were super understanding. So I appreciate you waiting for me to have more
Sure,
time and flexibility.
sure.
But yeah, hey everyone, welcome to the world of Aja Pearl. I just see girls everywhere. I'm gonna make you a jacket, girl. You know I have my own clothing line, so
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I got a little girl's jacket with the pearls on it, and I've been having requests for the ladies' jackets just like that. So I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you before this day comes, but today I want to tell you that after this, you need to send me your size so I can get a jacket in your size, and you're gonna have be blinged out with your pearls, okay?
Hell yeah. I'm gonna
Yeah,
rock that jacket.
yeah. Thank you. That'll be awesome. So, yes, hello everyone. I'm gonna let you take the lead, and let's see where this show goes.
Well, this show is about you. This is your world. Okay, you know it's the world of Elijah Pearl. This is your world. Okay? So, we're gonna start with the modeling thing. Um, did you always have aspirations to be a model or was this like a process?
So, as a young child, as a little girl, it was
Mhm.
something that was installed in me. I grew up
Okay.
in an all female household, so like with a single mom who was very pretty and loved to dress up and loved dressing up her girls. And I was the youngest of three. What I'm not the pride and joy of the family, right? I'm the black sheep, but I was the ugly duckling. So, but coming from that, her and my oldest sister, who I admired a lot, they were very beautiful, and I just looked up to them, loved their style, loved how they carried themselves. And we would talk from an early age. Like my mom would talk about, you girls should get into modeling and acting. And my oldest sister, when she came to a certain age, she really wanted to pursue it. And I think it was just hard for us to really access and take advantage of that when we were young,
Mhm.
because the first thing my mom did was she went to this modeling agency that was great at marketing, right? So it was the popular one because you
Was
hear
it
about it.
Barbizon?
Huh?
Was it Barbizon?
Yes. How did you know? Great
Because
at marketing and got everybody
because
for their money, right?
because that commercial was always on because I grew up in the '80s. So that was the modeling agency back in the day, Barbizon.
Yes. Yes. So we went down there and they're like, oh, yeah, your daughter's. I think I was a preteen. I don't even think I was, not even in the double digits of age yet.
Oh
And my
wow, so
sister
you
might
were
have
a
been a
baby.
teenager. Yeah, I was really young. So, and they were like, oh, my mom had three girls. So they're like, you're like the Hispanic version of like, what was the Brady Bunch? Like, all your daughters are so pretty and this and that. But then it was like, you're going to need a portfolio and you're going to need this. And like all their fees, my mom was like, oh, no, that's not attainable. So squash that, like, I'm not even going to entertain it. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Sorry, girls. It's not what I thought it was. Like, we can't sign you up. So that was easily deterred. And it was like, don't even think about it because it's too much money to be invested in. I don't got the money for that, so we're not doing that. But I can't say that my love for fashion, magazines, beauty straight away, because those were some of the things that we did every day. Like my mom was a fashionista, she had her own flair and her own style and she loved dressing up, and especially for events and outings, and she took a lot of pride in like getting ready. And when she was like the diamond princess for a while, like, on an older man's arm, like she really was dressed up in luxury brands and
Wow.
doing all of that. So
Mhm.
she got a lot of influence over that lifestyle, having that, my love for that. But and again, my sisters. So long story short, I when I came to an age of like being a preteen,
Mhm.
when my body started to develop, it just boomed. I had the childbearing hips by seventh grade. I was a lot thicker.
Mhm.
Where people were saying fat, you know, even in my home, it was
Mhm.
like, you're getting too big, your butt's too big, your thighs, if they wanted to tease me, I was thunder thighs and you know,
Mhm.
so whatever. So that's when I don't think I had low self-esteem, but I started to be unconfident
Right.
of the body that I was developing, the body that I was in.
Right.
So, and that was in the 90s. So we're wearing
Right.
baggy clothes, so it didn't really matter. Because
Mhm.
in the 90s, I was still in grade school. I was in seventh grade, eighth grade when I was getting this body.
Right.
But then when I got to high school, by this time, I recognized that I wanted a different style for myself before all of the girls and everybody was doing that. I strayed away from like dressing in crisscross jeans and,
Mhm.
hip hop clothing because that's the type of music we listened to. We were into hip hop
Right.
and all that.
Mhm.
I mean, we purposely wore our jeans backwards just because crisscross did that.
I did it. I'm not gonna lie. I did it.
We were buying men's clothes. Do you remember?
Yes,
We were buying men's clothes. We were wearing bulls, Charlotte horns.
I know I did.
I had the do rag to match. My hair probably looked like this. So if you're wondering why I'm so comfortable with my hair looking crazy, because I used to pop this out of my do rag, right? So we used to dress. I went from trying to transitioning from like hip hop and the oversized jeans and the t-shirts to now wanting to wear form-fitting clothing because wherever I saw it, I liked it.
Right.
So now when I was shopping for myself, because I started work at a pretty early age, I started in retail. As I mentioned, I grew up with a single mom. So, you know, financially, we were on a budget.
Mhm.
And, I moved my, how that was raised. So my oldest sister started
Put
working
your camera to the middle so I can see it, so you can see your pretty face.
this way.
There we go.
All right. So my sister and them started working, and they were earning their own money. So I wanted to earn my own money too. So what I did was I went right next door to where she worked and I applied. And even though I was 12 going on 13, since I was tall and developed, I said I was 15 going on 16. So that in case they thought like you're probably not old enough, I was tall enough to get away with it.
Right.
So I got away with it. They knew my sister worked right. We were working at a plaza. It was called Commercial Plaza, and it had a few different stores. And so I started working and started shopping for myself. And that's when by the time I was a freshman, I got into form fitting clothing.
Okay.
And some of the girls were already doing that, right? I wasn't the only one who saw that style and was geared towards it. But um, I guess I was a little um, unsure of how to feel about myself, how comfortable I could get because at home
Mhm.
my mom was so um forwardly like critical,
Right.
and I think she meant well. Like I think she thought that it was constructive criticism. Like a lot of Mexican moms, that's the way they talk to us. Like it's just so they normalize being like, oh, gorda. Like they call you fat. Like if it's cute, like that's an affectionate name. They use it as slang.
Yeah. I've I've heard of that. I've heard that in the like in a not even the Mexican community, but
Man,
more so the Hispanic and the Latino community. They would say things that are very derogatory. Like they would call you gordita or gordito
they'll be
or
like
or
my
negro.
granny's daughter. Like my ex-husband's sister-in-law would see my daughter and she'd be like, Fea, that means ugly.
Yes, that's bad. Like, why would you say that?
Right. Exactly. So they say the most insulting things ever, that as a child, when you're watching other cultures on TV or at school or in life, you're interacting with different people and cultures, you're like, they don't use that. Like, that's offensive.
Yeah,
So why are you using it, saying it so lightly? Like, how is it so easy for you to insult me and tear me up, my self-esteem as a young girl,
hmm,
and then act like it's a joke? Like I'm supposed to take that lightly, right?
yeah,
So I had to train myself to believe like they don't know no better, right? Or
right,
it took me a long time to get to a place of I don't want to tolerate that. I don't have to tolerate that,
exactly.
right? And you know what? Like I know you think that that's okay, but I came to a place in my life where I'm saying what you think is okay is not okay with me.
Hmm,
And so what made me go into modeling was I was on my second marriage, right?
hmm,
Had another baby,
hmm,
and I was starting this new life over again. And as soon as I got pregnant, my partner started to do things that were very disrespectful towards the marriage.
right.
Okay. Um, you know, of course I'm not gonna have proof, but
Uh,
I think he started to stray and be unloyal in a lot of things, and his demeanor, his whole personality changed with me where he wasn't sweet anymore.
hmm,
Um, and it became toxic.
right.
He would insult me, and he was not Hispanic. So
Okay.
I know you know better because
Yeah.
I know you didn't grow up like that.
Right.
So you're not going to convince me that
Hmm,
that's not disrespectful because it is.
hmm, right.
And I had walked away from my first marriage because of the same reason.
Hmm,
And I got criticized and for it. And not, I got criticized for so many reasons
hmm,
and judged, and everybody wanted to gossip, the cheese they wanted to be in that, but what did she do wrong? And why is he not staying with her? And it was a choice. I left. My kids were small. You
hmm,
think somebody wants to walk away because, I didn't get left. I left.
right.
And I was so sick of how the culture, the environment that I was in felt okay with being that judgmental and toxic. So I
Hmm,
started to speak out loud about how toxic I believe some people's traits were, and that
hmm,
might have offended a lot of people. But I
hmm,
wasn't saying it to be on the offense or to defend anyone. I was just saying, you know what, we're conditioned to believe that that's okay and that's normal. And for me, it doesn't feel good. So I'm
hmm,
going to break the cycle and I'm going
right.
to strive for something different because I want a different outcome for me as a
Right.
woman. And I had a daughter,
Right.
and I was the first one out of my family to have a daughter. And I'm
Okay.
like, it stops with me. It stops now. Like, I don't want to have a toxic relationship and act like that shit's normal, or act
Hmm,
like I gotta put up with all that and pretend everything's okay, and the next week be back together again. Like it's not gonna be this on and off cycle. And I was even judged by my own family, who it felt like they were taking sides with my abusive partner. Who
hmm.
was openly disrespectful. And
That's the worst.
so I went through all of that. And then by the time I got older and was in a second marriage, and I thought I would marry and get outside of my culture so I wouldn't have to deal with the same thing.
Right.
Well, because he was toxic in his own way, and I hadn't fully overcame my childhood trauma, right?
Right.
By this time, he's criticizing my weight, all the weight that I picked up while being with him. So now I'm like, oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah, we're not doing that again.
Yeah, like I'm not only going to advocate for the abuse that I went through with my mom and then my first husband, because it was different forms of abuse. But
Mhm.
now you're trying to be verbally abusive, financially controlling, and I'm not putting up with nobody's shit.
Right. And so
And
you
you're not
shouldn't.
going to tell me that that takes away from who I am as a person. And now I'm he was trying so hard to like convince people that the marriage wasn't working out because I was this awful person,
Mhm.
trying to say all these things, and the focus was all on my weight, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, and I had like his ex-girlfriends or someone that I knew that was involved with him really focused on my weight while I was with him. So I think that was her way of saying like, well, even if he thought she was pretty and she looked good, like she gained all this weight now, so she don't look good. So I had a point to prove where I'm like, I could still look good at any size.
Right.
So let me just go. And plus size was trendy. It was evolving. And
Right.
I'm like, it's my love for fashion. And I wanted to do something with myself. So I'm like, it's back to me not letting everybody talk their shit
Mhm.
and criticize me. And then it was coming from someone who wasn't skinny. And I'm
That okay. So we got a lot to unpack here. Now let me just say, let's start off with your mom calling, with the with the like the deconstructive criticism. Um. Okay. So this was the '90s, right? Around the '90s, right?
in the
Okay.
90s, I was in my teens. I'm born 1980, right? So
Oh,
yeah,
so was I. Okay.
okay.
This is perfect. This is perfect because we were born in the same year, and therefore, okay. So I know that throughout the '80s as well as the '90s, thin was in,
Right.
and if you were quote unquote fat, you were ugly, you were disgusting, you were undesirable. We're not even going to address that because all they want to do is eat. That was the stereotype. All quote unquote fat people want to do is eat. That was the stereotype. Okay. Now, the one person I knew that was like the poster child for plus size people, her name was Monique, and she's a comedian.
A comedian. I know who she is.
Right. She she grew up as a big girl. She all her entire life she was a big girl. So she became a comedian to channel those bad the verbal abuse she endured from being a big girl. Now I remember she did a movie called Fat Girl. I think it was called Fat Girl,
Yeah,
and
I think it was.
yeah. So and it was about a woman who just like her, she was ridiculed for being over plus size, and she decided to go into fashion designing. And I think during like one like before that, she went to Africa for a vacation with her girlfriend, and she met this guy, and the guy fell in love with her because she was a big girl.
I remember hearing that. Like they love big women. They
Yes,
feel like it's like I don't know, but it was like this big deal. Like if you
it
they like adored them.
yes because
Yeah.
I think it represents wealth or something.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I remember hearing the same thing. Yeah.
Right. So this guy she met in Africa fell in love with her, and I, well, in the end, she became a fashion designer that represented plus size girls, and the clothes were just fire. By the way, the clothes were fire.
So this
And
has a true. This is true. Like, is this a true story or is that the
no,
movie?
this is fiction. This is
It's the
fiction.
movie. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And she got back together with the guy who fell in love with her, and the guy was fine as hell.
Oh wait.
So that was my that was the first time I was seeing plus size women to be an equal to thin women. They aren't equal. And the more I've seen plus size women like modeling, I'm like, oh wow, like she has all these curves. Um, like and the way she moves is so graceful. I mean, and at one time, plus size women were revered, and now it's like if you, like at that time you had to look like you have to have the waist look, and the waist look was like you got to look anorexic. I'm not with that. So um yeah, I understand. Like in the '90s, yeah, a lot of plus size girls they wore the baggy clothes because that was the fashion. And then when it geared towards the mid '90s and the late '90s, the clothes got a little bit fitted. Now, plus size women were still it was no, noticing the beauty of plus size women was still in its infancy in the '90s, but people were still noticing it. And the more I have to say, some plus size women, and I'm not some plus size women took that to like another level, like we're being revered as beautiful. So now they have this conceited spirit, like hey, we're saying you're beautiful. Don't take it like if you take it to that level, now you're considered ugly.
So I never like when someone um recognizes their own beauty but puts someone else down.
Right. And
That
that's what it was doing.
yeah,
That's what
right.
it was.
Hmm.
Because they were so used to being ridiculed for being plus size.
And now they're coming at and criticizing thin women, skinny women, and acting as if we're more beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, there's a
That makes you
comparison.
ugly.
Yes,
That makes you ugly.
yes.
But yeah, I was like before this, I was looking at your Instagram. I'm like, wow, I need to talk to her because
Aw.
her confidence level is like through the roof. And I just like I wanted to know, like, did you always feel this way, or was this a process?
Sure.
But
So
yeah,
it's a process. And I'll tell you that I think that under the sun that I was born under, I'm big on astrology. I know a lot of people have their own thoughts, but when I read my personality traits, a lot of stuff lines up with me, and that's who I am.
hmm.
And so for me, as a Leo, I'm born in August. I'm a straight up Leo, so I think
Oh, so you should
naturally,
have high self esteem about yourself.
right? Naturally, I'm very confident.
Yeah.
So it was through life experiences of some of other people trying to dim my light
Mhm.
that made me a little insecure. I
Mhm.
don't think I was ever not confident or had low self-esteem.
Right.
I was confident. I'm confident.
Mhm.
It was the bashing. It was other people's opinions.
Mhm.
And because you're because it was thin was in back then. Now,
Right.
I wasn't I'm my biggest now, but I'm not even that big,
Mhm.
right? So it was they went far with because I got in thick at a young age.
Right.
I was in seventh and eighth grade in a size juniors 13, 14. So like I
Mhm.
said, my hips were big, my thighs were big, my butt was big. Everybody wasn't shaped like that. Now, had I been around the black community, you know what I mean? Then everybody had the big thighs and stuff. But I was in a Latina community. So it was either you're slim or you're chubby.
Oh
And
wow.
far and in between, do you have the bodies that are like more curvier?
Mhm.
Now a lot more. It's more common now because of the way we eat, and thin is not you glorified, right? So people just like to eat healthy, and they're not glorifying the size zero no more. So nobody's really starving themselves anymore.
Right.
You know that real women, real bodies, real life, you know?
Mhm.
So I think I love that beauty in itself has evolved to now people are more open with all the different body types. I love what Rihanna does. She has every single type of culture. It's
Yes.
so diverse. She's got every
Yes.
body type. She has every body type and every type of style of lingerie.
Yes.
We're all women. We're all human.
Yes.
Everybody's unique and beautiful in their own way. The only thing that makes someone ugly is who they are on the inside, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how they treat other people. So,
Exactly.
people got to stray away from what is beautiful to you may not be beautiful. We're all attracted to whatever we attract, what we like. We have our own
Mm-hmm.
liking. So, I love being a voice for people. I'm confident. Um, I was in an environment that was trying to control me, that was verbally, manipulating me, trying
Mm-hmm.
to get me to believe that I was something that I wasn't. And in
Mm-hmm.
my head, you know, because I could handle it,
Mm-hmm.
I would just not to be combative, I pick and choose my battles for my own peace of mind.
Right.
I would let them get away with that. But when I grew to a certain age and understanding what I really wanted for myself and my kids,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I had to cut out toxic people, set boundaries, and get less people access to me so that I could really, really focus on the things that were necessary for me in my life.
Right.
So
Right.
that's how I became a model. That's what made me want to become a public figure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I advocate for people. I advocate for domestic violence. I advocate for body positivity and confidence. I advocate for every culture, every woman, every human being. As long
Mm-hmm.
as you ain't ugly, and I don't mean looks, I mean on the inside, because you could look
That's
really
right.
good, but if you're an awful person, I don't want nothing to do with you.
Right. Right.
And so I'm just trying to live a positive life and you know, build something for myself and my kids because I'm out here on my own,
Right.
you know. And I had to leave people that I love, and I had to stand up for myself and saying, I'm not going to tolerate that because
Mm-hmm.
even if you're, you know, whatever relation you are to me by blood, if you ain't treating me right, I don't got to stay here.
I
And
totally agree.
and
I
that
did.
was the thing that the men didn't understand. It was like they saw me when I was vulnerable and thought that they could leverage and keep me stuck
Mm-hmm.
because they knew of me through friends, through family, they knew my background because I am an open book, because I am very transparent.
Right.
For me being open doesn't mean me being nice. You mistake my kindness for weakness. Don't ever think I'm weak. You
Preach
know,
on, sis. Preach on, sis. And
so that's
you,
what.
when you said that, I can totally relate because I too am an open book, and people mistake my kindness as a form of weakness. In fact, I think that's, I think society is really wrong for that, mistaking kindness as a form of a weakness. Just because
Yeah,
I'm kind to you doesn't mean you get to treat me like shit. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right, because yes.
Right. And as far as these men who you had a relationship with, I could totally relate to that as well. Um, like my daughter's father, the minute I got pregnant and started putting on weight, he started getting the wandering eye. And
Yeah,
then
because they feel like, hold on, I see my kids getting dropped off right now because I'm sitting in front of my window. And of course, he's early because I said 4 o'clock and he's here. But so give me a minute because I'll have to he watches my dog. I got her dog. So he
uh,
watches the dog and her.
okay,
And so now he's dropping them off early because he's always early. Like, couldn't just give me that extra. Let me tell him I'll open the door.
okay,
And that if you'll just give me a break, sorry about that,
no problem,
so I can go grab them and walk them up here. Hold on 1 second.
no problem.
So hold that thought because I really like where you were going with that and I want to hear it.
Oh, sure. All right, guys. While she's away, and just came up some strange eyes. the earrings right now? You see the earrings? Yes. I made these earrings. I have a brand called Carlin and Davika Gems. So if you are interested, in these pair of earrings, just DM me um, on Facebook, just or if you have IG, Pink Fox 219. So yeah, yeah, mm-mm. I'll talk to you later. I'm on podcast. It's not gonna cost. Yeah, I'm like, excuse me. Um, yeah, right. Oh, you said that was my son, you guys. I have a 19-year-old son, and he was just wanted to come by. So, well, no, I'm not. I'm in the middle of something, so I'll have to you tomorrow. So, yeah, mom's work is never done. And that's all good. Hey!
I got someone who likes to get in my camera. She likes attention. All right. This is Ava. Ava, you can say hi and then go turn on the TV. Go on. Okay? Say hi. Hi.
Hi,
Okay.
Ava. I don't see your
Her?
pretty face.
Where's she at? Right here. There you go.
Hi, Ava.
Okay. Go on. Go turn on TV. Where's the picture? Check. I saw the one for your TV on your room. Okay. Okay. Sorry, Aja. Sorry,
That's
guys.
okay.
I'm
It's
back.
okay. It's funny. You know what's so funny? My son just called me,
At the
and I'm
same
like,
time?
huh?
At the same time?
Yeah, while you were away with your daughter, my son called me. I'm like, you can't come over right now. I want to do a podcast. He's like, well, can I come over tomorrow? I'm like, sure. And I'm on the phone while it's still recording.
I
And
thought you were talking to your audience because I heard you talking as I was walking down the stairs, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. She's just keeping everyone like entertained.
well, I was just telling them about the earrings I was wearing.
Okay. Oh, those are pretty.
Yeah, I have a jewelry brand called Carlin and the Gems, and I was just telling them, oh, if you're interested, you these are
So,
the
do you
earrings.
sell jewelry?
I design and make my own jewelry. Yes,
Oh, that's nice. Congratulations.
yeah.
Super cool.
I do a whole lot of other stuff. So.
Of course.
But yeah, my son called me. My 19-year-old son called me, and he's like, "Can I come over?" I said, "Not right now." Oh, okay. Well, could I come over tomorrow? Yeah, sure. You can come over tomorrow. Fine. He was okay. So, but back to our little convo. Yeah, he got the wandering eye while I was getting pregnant, and he was so ballsy to tell me that he was sleeping with somebody that that took me to um my prenatal appointment. This was somebody who would take me to my prenatal appointment,
How did
and
you know her? Was she a friend?
no, she wasn't a friend of mine. She was an assistant in this halfway house.
So, how did he meet her? Because she was picking you up?
She Okay, so
Hold on 1 second. You can't distract me while I'm on my Zoom. Come over here. Okay, we're not going to worry about that right now. Come over here. You can grab this and go over there. While I'm on the meeting, you have to give mommy a break. You have on what you need on the TV? Is it on? Yeah. Okay, then don't worry about nothing else. I'll fix it later, okay? Okay. Here, take that. Go on. Okay, sorry about that. So,
Okay.
is that how he met her? Because now she was your right?
Well, no. It's just your camera. Your camera.
Adjusting camera.
Yeah.
Like that now? Oh, I have to get a book for it.
No, you're fine like that.
Oh, okay. Let me I think I kind of need to set it up more. Is that better?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So, um, he lived in this, I guess you could say, this halfway house, and she was the assistant director of the halfway house. And he would tell me, oh, she's constantly flirting with me and blah 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 blah, until like when my daughter got like maybe like around a year, and we just left that halfway house because I was staying there because I had nowhere else to go. He confessed to me that he was sleeping with her because he thought that I was cheating on him. That was the cornerstone of our relationship.
No, but they always accuse you of cheating when they're the ones cheating.
Right, but he was doing this since day one. He was constantly accusing me of cheating on him. Now, day one, I'm like, look, dude, I'm just trying to get to know who you are and what you're about. Am I gonna see other people? Yeah, but he couldn't seem to understand that he wanted me to be exclusive to him and only him. So therefore, I had to cut these guys off who were
That was
pretty.
exactly my situation with a cheater. That's what they
Yeah,
do.
I had to tell these guys that, look, I can't see you anymore. I had to tell my guy friends that I couldn't hang out with him
Yes.
anymore
Yeah.
because he was incredibly, and he wasn't jealous. He was envious. Okay, which is worse. So I'm pregnant and I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and he's cheating on me with her, as well as I want to believe other women as well, because he was constantly telling me how I was getting fat and I was this and I was that, and even after I had my daughter, he was still saying that I was fat and I was this and I was that. And by this time, he was going to this city college getting his electrician certificate, and I already knew what time it was. I already knew that he was messing with other girls in this school because he was constantly putting me down about my weight. So
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
And but yet he wants to constantly accuse me of cheating on him. And when I started working again, he didn't want me to go to work because he thought that I was gonna find somebody else.
Because he
Yes,
thought you were just as grimy as he was. Everywhere he went, he fooled around with whoever he met there.
right.
So they accuse you of being like them.
So in the end, at the end of our relationship, it got physical.
Hmm.
Um, he would choke me. He would call me out my name. He would call me the N word if he was white.
Was he? Oh, he was a different race.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, he he really did a number on me. Um, it was really really bad because I'm still angry about I'm still angry with the city of New York because I don't know if you're Chicago born, but
I am.
okay, so I don't know how it is in Cook County, but I know in New York City, especially New York City, they have no compassion, no sympathy, and definitely no empathy for the person that was being abused, whether you're a man or a woman. They are not compassionate to the one that's being abused.
I
They
couldn't get no help.
they
Um,
get no,
I
no.
couldn't get no help. My first husband was very abusive. Um, It was more verbally, emotionally. He's very controlling, very possessive, like envious, as you
Mhm.
described. And he would pull phone cords out and do stuff. Take the key so I could be trapped and not go nowhere, leave, walk out, walk away from an argument or a fight. And when I would report it, uh, if they come to the house, if they actually made it down there, if they actually came and addressed
Right.
the call,
Right.
he's like third third cousins to a lot of police officers in our district that we lived in. So if someone said, "Oh, they're related to such and such," and then his sister was a cop, they ended up arresting me
That's terrible.
in front
Absolutely
of my
terrible.
kids. My kids were crying. His sister vouched for him. Her cop that was a boyfriend vouched for him. I was just going to pick up my kids because they had been avoiding me for 3 days.
Mhm.
And I was like, I want my kids back. Like, you can't keep my kids every day.
Right.
And then other times, I'd go to make a report. He's harassing me. I got in an argument with the officer who's supposed to be taking my report at the district
Mhm.
because he's like, let me see like, he wanted proof. So I showed him text messages and he's like, this sounds, I said, he is saying he's going to kill me. That is what I'm here to report. I don't need you to be the judge and look at our previous arguments and say, how long has this been going on? I'm here to report the incident that just happened.
Mhm.
So he literally was just like, he started coming at me.
Mhm.
And I was like in my 20s at the time, I was super young. And I'm like, you know what? Why won't you give me somebody else? He refused to give me somebody else. Other officers could hear him and
Mhm.
me interacting with him. It was a big open space.
Mhm.
And I'm like, can someone attend to me? Because I came here for assistance. Obviously, he's probably a wife beater his damn self.
Right.
He don't feel like he needs to protect me. And I'm telling you that I'm not going to be another number. And I want fucking reports when I'm getting threatened.
Mhm.
So I left and I called and made a report. But you know what? It deters you from really pursuing charges, from getting any real help.
Mhm.
When his sister and her cop boyfriend got involved, even though I got arrested that day and was in jail, it actually, they did me a favor because
Mhm.
now I called and reported her. And so that somebody had to listen to me when you're telling them that an officer is doing some stuff. I forgot who it was. If you go to like OPP or something, go to make a file on a police officer, it's a different protocol, right?
Mhm.
And so now that was my file.
Right.
And that was when him and his family left me alone. And I
Mhm.
said, you keep vouching for him. You saw how he was when I was with him.
Mhm.
Don't interfere. Like, don't keep my kids from me. Like, because your family, he has a very united family. And I'm like, you don't have permission. Like, he's still using his abusive ways to control and use my kids as leverage. What he's doing is wrong.
Right.
Like, he's not in the best. He already spent his days with his kids. It's time for me to get my kids back, on
Right.
my days off and on my days. And
Right.
so they played all they held my kids, they used my kids as leverage and they all stuck up for him. And at one point I gave up, I threw my hands in the air and just worked a lot.
Mhm.
And I didn't really have backup from my family. It was like I was literally on my own fighting him and his whole, not physically fighting him and his whole family, but
Right. I know what you're
fully
saying.
the tug of war with my kids.
Yeah.
And he had all this backup, and it was just me, and I was out to look like the crazy person who was just dramatic. But
Mhm.
everybody made an excuse for his toxic behavior. Oh, everybody, she knew who she got with. Really, he wasn't like that when I was.
No. No. I hate that. Oh, she knew who she got with. No, no, we don't. Half the time we don't know because they put this good guy face on to lure us in, and when they feel that they quote unquote got us, like that's when they get real comfortable. That's when the mask comes
That's when
off.
the demons come out and they show you
Exactly.
who they really are. And by that
Exactly.
time, they've already entrapped you somehow by locking you down, getting you pregnant, starting a family, married. So they make it harder for you to walk away from there.
Right.
So you're already a little bit stuck, but
Oh,
it's
I knew I was stuck. I knew I was stuck when I got pregnant. Now he tried to marry me. Um, but you know, and at this time I was 7 months pregnant, and I was 7 months pregnant. He tried to marry me. Now he tried to get a marriage certificate in in Bronx County, but he says no, not he says, but there was this clerk that came out to us and said, according to our records, you're still married to a woman in Queens. And I looked at him like, you're still married to your wife, to your first wife? And then he has the nerve to get mad at the situation. I'm like, really?
you
But
knew you were
I look
married.
back on it and I'm like, thank God, thank God, I was not married to this monster. But I had a baby with him, and
Hmm.
now this baby, who I have not seen since 5 years old, she will be 13 this summer. I haven't seen her.
He kept her from you.
The family kept her from me. She's with her aunt in California,
Yeah,
and
my kids. I had to stay in the vicinity because they took over my kids. My
and
kids
yeah,
were spent
and
way
the
more
state of New
time there
York,
than with me.
yeah, the state of New York just pretty much um helped them take my child from me. Oh well, she's not mentally fit to take care of this baby. And see,
And it was probably because he was white.
he is. It's
And
true.
you're looking at you like, oh, he's gonna be more fit because he's white and she's black.
Right,
You're only looking at the color of your skin.
right. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. So it's like, you know, and when I have female guests who talk about domestic abuse, I tell my story so people will understand, my backstory and what I went through. And then furthermore, I've been silent for so long. I've tried to play their game, and it's like I'm always losing. So now it's like I'm speaking out right now. So whoever is looking at my show, you know, I may have a lot of stuff going on, and I'm doing my thing, but at the same time, I'm still a woman by at the end of the day. I'm still a woman who is missing her child. I'm still a woman who is fighting for her child. So yeah.
Wow, you just brought me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm like super sensitive, but I'm an empath, so I feel, you know,
You too?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, me too.
So, wow. Well, thank you for sharing your story. I hope that, you know what? I hope that we get to a place where we can help you gain enough backup to help you win that matter because it's so not fair.
It's not fair.
It's not fair by any means when someone just has the power and the authority to do that and jurisdiction grants them that just by judging you based off of your circumstances. Your circumstances, like I was a young mom, you know what I mean? Like I was in my 20s and had been dependent on him financially. So he was the one with the paper trail of having money, and it appeared that I couldn't take care of myself. Like I got custody, but I had gotten custody because I was making all those reports.
Mhm.
And no matter how many times they told me no, I went a different way and around it, like around those cops. You
Mhm.
know, if they walked away from an incident where I called them and now they didn't were avoiding me because they recognized the name, the address, and they would come here and tell you they were sick of it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So basically, it was like, oh, tolerate it. So I just kept making sure that I kept either going downtown and pursuing it a little bit further, but I had the time to do that.
Right.
Everybody don't have that time,
Mhm.
or for whatever reason, maybe you don't even know that there's other resources besides going to just the standard things that we know we can have access to. And then when you get access there, they're telling you no, it
Mhm.
completely shuts you down.
Right.
But it's probably easier. It was probably easier for me to walk through other doors because of the color of my skin.
Mhm.
So for you, it was not going to be as easy.
No, not at all. And I
No,
know that now.
right. But I saw how they were treating me. And
Mhm.
I can actually get away. Sometimes I got more color to my skin than other times just because of the sun.
Mhm.
But if I had my hair blonde, I could probably get away with looking Caucasian.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
can see that because I have family, I have friends, um, and people do get treated based on the color of their skin and their status.
Mhm.
We do. That's just the reality. It's the awful reality. Um, but it's super hard. But hopefully, God willing, that this is the start of a new chapter for you,
Mhm.
and for people to speak up who are in those situations, because my kids are grown now. My daughter's 19, my son is 21, the two that I went through that with,
Mhm.
playing that tug of war, feeling like I lost. I had full custody, but
Mhm.
I physically lost
Mhm.
parenting.
Mhm.
And I had to work so much to provide for myself. Where? Well, then how do you see it? Hold on. So I lost. I felt like all my rights were stripped away from me, like um everything. My
Mhm.
time, like it still emotionally upsets me to this day because I see how my kids are not available to me because they are more attached to the family that they spent more quality time with. They respect them more because they heard so much negativity about me.
Mhm.
Um, they criticized the jobs that I had. Nothing I did was ever good enough.
Right.
And, you know, even to this day, like, I got to call and be like, can you come see me? Can you spend some time with me? And I see that I'm not first.
Yeah.
And then when my mom, I had a toxic mom, you know what I mean? Like, and she also used to negatively talk about me because I was breaking that toxic cycle with her too, and
Yeah.
relationship with her.
Right.
So she went on their father's side. She will glorify him as a parent just
Right.
to say that I was an absent parent. I was not an absent parent by choice.
Mhm. Same thing with mine.
But they will focus on that and try to make, I say, slander who I am as a mother,
Right.
so you can look and feel better about your ignorant, abusive, toxic self.
Mhm.
And when he had that backup of my mom, because he knew the relationship that I had with my mom, he totally, she would invite him before she would invite me to some of the holiday parties.
And that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Like I don't understand why. Why is the villain glorified? I don't. I will never understand it. Why is the villain glorified? We live in a world where right is wrong, wrong is right, up is down, down is up, and the villain always wins. And if they,
They don't win in the long run, right? Like internally, I know you can't like yourself.
mhm,
You cannot like yourself, or maybe you do, and that's fine. But you, I don't feel like they end up totally being blessed. there's just a lot of other people out here with their own toxic traits and
Right.
villains themselves. So they're going to latch and gravitate towards each other,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes there's way less good people than there are bad,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're more they're more determined, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We say I need my peace of mind, so I'm going to walk away and not fight back. Our way of fighting is saying that's not my battle, you
Right.
know? And their way of fighting is causing conflict and keeping that war.
And that's a narcissist.
Right, right. So it appears that they've won,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that in the ultimately they win because karma gets everybody. And I heard or read something today, or I heard something today, and I thought to myself, you know what? The universe got my back.
Yes.
And that's where we have to be, keep our faith extremely high, be positive, and just manifesting.
Right.
Like, say, you know what? Like, we have to keep understanding, like, write it down, affirm it, journalize it,
Mm-hmm.
manifest it. Keep
Mm-hmm.
speaking your truth. You keep speaking your truth, it's going to get to the right people in the right ears.
Right.
So there's no shame. It's very hard to talk about all the vulnerable places that we've been because it's opening those wounds and those hurtful emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might take you back to a place where you feel weak or hurt,
Mm-hmm.
but that's how we grow from them.
Right.
So I always, like we talked earlier, like me being kind does that not mean you can mistake my kindness for weakness. I'm
Exactly.
stronger by exposing my transparency and my hurt.
Right.
I am out here with open wounds and still telling you how I'm overcoming them in the process of growing. That
Right.
doesn't make me weak. That makes me so much more stronger. The
Mm-hmm.
only person who's going to deem that as weak is a weak person. So
Exactly. Yep.
that's what I got.
So let's get to the podcast. How did you start podcasting?
Okay. So I was a guest. So they
Okay.
invited me on as a guest. Um, it was a fellow model and a photographer. They had their own podcast show. And I openly started, when they met me, I was in what I thought was a happy marriage.
Oh, okay.
I started modeling when I thought, because my husband wanted me out of his way and out of the house so he could go cheat or
Oh.
go do drugs at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
He needed me to be busy because I was like, if we have a kid and get married, I want to raise my baby. I didn't get that with my first set of kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to, like, I want to experience that. I want to experience like all, like my baby, all the steps that my baby's going to take as an infant, as, like when they're small. Like I missed out on that with my other kids. And I told him, like, I want to experience that. I want to be home for the first 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That man made me work till I was ready to pop, right? Like 8.5 months pregnant. And then I finally was like, okay, I can't do it no more. Like my back is killing me in that chair all day. And
Mm-hmm.
I need some time off. And so at 8.5 months, I stopped working and I had the baby in December 7th, I had her.
Mm-hmm.
And it was New Year's Eve. So it was about 2.5 weeks later. And it was New Year's Eve. And I was taking a picture with my glass of wine. And he looked at the picture that I took and he's like, ill. And he already had disconnected with me on an intimate level. I could tell he wasn't doing, he wasn't into me no more while I was pregnant a few months, right? So his attention was somewhere else. And he didn't really go out much. So it was hard for me to really say like what was going on. I just, he made it about like me having teenage kids. Because at this time I had my kids living with me full time.
Right.
And, he was just like, he made it to be like I had to keep working because I had to provide for those two kids. And so I started to see how this wasn't really a partnership
Right.
because he knew that the first father and ex-husband didn't pay child support.
Right.
I was like, wow, it's not fair. At this point, I'm just thinking like it isn't fair for him to have to support my two kids. So I'll keep working because my kids were teens. I got to support them, right?
Right.
I was their only financial supporter. Anyway, he said ill to me, and I was so damn insulted.
I
On
would
top
be
of the
too.
insults that I would get while I was pregnant. So I said, what? And he was like, I'm like, you're acting like I look gross. I'm like, ill means someone is disgusting or gross.
Hmm.
And I wasn't the only one that gained weight
Right.
in my
You
pregnancy.
can't wait too, right?
Right. So I'm like, you look. So now my jab started coming. So it became toxic.
Hmm.
Where I'm like insulting him and his body weight.
Right.
You look like you're still carrying a child. So
There
how
you
dare
go.
you say me ill to
Hmm.
me? I just
Hmm.
had a baby. How freaking dare you?
Yeah. Your baby.
Right. And I'm like, so I got into, but who the person you're texting and calling, she's bigger than me.
Hmm.
And when I became that ugly too, where now I'm criticizing another woman,
Yeah.
I saw how ugly the relationship was getting.
Yeah.
And I saw the level that he had brought me to.
Right.
I didn't like myself no
Hmm.
more. I didn't like myself because I had to reflect on where I was at and how did I get here, right?
Right.
And so at that point, I'm thinking, whoa, you know, I had become controlling with him because I was
Hmm.
trying to keep tabs on him. Um, it was just a lot. And the reason why, when he triggered me in so many ways, and
Hmm.
he triggered me because when I was still dating him, I said to him, you know, I didn't think I would get married. He kept wanting to get married right away, right?
Right.
Have a child and all that.
Hmm.
I was like, I don't think I want to have kids no more. Like, I just didn't have a good experience, and I'm okay with the two that I got. And it was like, but I really want a kid, and I really want to marry you. Like, he was like, rush, rush, rush process. So, you guys got to be very careful with the ones that want to rush things.
That. Yeah. I wish somebody would have told me that because.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know. We don't know. We're just thinking like, and plus, they're the the narcissists are. Well, they're the honeymooners. They're so great to
Yeah.
you.
They love
So
bomb you.
charming. They're so charming in the beginning. They're
It's the
like
love
freaking
bombing.
Prince Charming.
Yeah. They love bomb you.
Yeah, he acted like he really liked me and my kids. And I was like, oh, not a lot of kids are, not a lot of men that I'm dating or seeing ask so much about my kids. And like he even just came and gave me money, like, oh, I know your kids are going back to school, and here goes some money so you could go buy them some whatever they need for school, whatever you need. And then a few months later, by the time we're married, engaged, and I'm pregnant, and I was like, those ain't my damn kids. And it's totally changed. It did a whole 360. So, God, I keep going into different things. You could cut this out if you need to. I know it's live,
Oh,
but the
stop.
podcast. So I was, so we went through the ups and downs in the relationship. And then I thought he kept saying, you're toxic. You're toxic. And because I was going to that place of being ugly too,
Hmm.
where I was being petty and back and forth and
Hmm.
being disrespectful as well.
Hmm.
And then there were traits that I had picked up from my ex abuser. That was the controlling and the possessiveness.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I don't like who I am. This isn't me. So I went to a domestic violence class and I went and got certified for that because I'm like, I'm going to advocate. You know what's going on here? Because he literally made me feel like I was crazy, like to believe that he was still reaching out to his exes and seeing them. He made me think that all of that was delusional, right? And so I was questioning my sanity and what I believed to be true. And so I said, if I'm the problem, I'm going to go get help.
Mhm.
So I went and I learned about domestic violence. So taking that course, because I said, you know where this is coming from? This is coming from maybe I'm not past or healed from my ex abuser. So I'm bringing that into this relationship. I thought I was solely the problem.
Mhm.
So I said, let me go fix this. But when I was in that class, the way they taught us, some of the things that they taught, like from your childhood trauma,
Mhm.
brought up all the issues that made sense. And so now I'm going into this healing and growth, right? In my new life.
Mhm.
Well, now he started to, I didn't realize it at first, took a couple months,
Mhm.
but he started to be sneaky. So
Right.
now things, he started to be himself.
Mhm.
So now things were hitting the surface again. And now
Mhm.
he was saying there were other problems.
Mhm.
So at this point, I'm like, my daughter's a year. You're not who you said you were. I gotta leave. This
Right.
is toxic. I try to fix my toxic side. That wasn't me before. It's not gonna be me afterwards.
Mhm.
It was during, and I realized he was a narcissist. So I said, I'm dealing with a different type of abuser, but you're still an abuser, and you have this persona in public, but behind closed doors, you're someone else. And that's where he was trying to say I was all these things. But I went on the show. I openly discussed why I was walking away. Out of that, I got an interview for a magazine to tell my
Cool.
story for Women's International Month. And a lot of, I became a guest on other outlets, on podcast shows, because I was already in the beauty and fashion and modeling industry. I
Right.
was already in the women's networking environment where I was attending to all these networking events and I was sharing all this stuff on my social media platforms and I was being transparent.
Erica,
Go
just a
ahead.
minute, okay?
Go ahead.
Just a minute. Sorry, y'all.
Oh, it's okay.
The my son came by anyway.
Oh, it's okay. He probably is hungry. Needs you to make.
Well, he okay. So here's the thing. So he was kind of late with getting me a Mother's Day gift. He felt bad getting me a Mother's
Oh,
Day gift, right? So he's like, "Well, Mama, I'm gonna take you out to dinner, and it's gonna be great." And I'm like, that's fine, but I don't want to go on Mother's Day because everybody wants to take their mama out for Mother's Day on
yep.
Mother's Day. So I said, why don't we do it like after Mother's Day?
So is that today?
So today, I'm like, huh?
That's today. You
You
guys
think?
are gonna go out for dinner?
Well, we didn't make a date to go out to dinner. I said, you don't have to take me out to dinner. I just want a cheesecake pan. Well, where can I find a cheesecake pan? Well, you can find one in Walmart. Oh, okay. So he comes by and I didn't get the cheesecake pan. I get the cheesecake. I said, you know what? I don't care.
I'll take a whole
Something.
cheesecake.
I love cheesecake anyway. So as soon as this podcast is over, I'm going to devour a slice of this cheesecake.
We might need to do a part two.
Definitely, definitely, absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
but
So podcast show. I go on as a guest, and later on, they're like, you know what? We want to turn it into YouTube. We're looking for hosts. You should apply. And I'm like, okay. So I applied, and they couldn't choose between me and another girl. So they brought us both on.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, she didn't stay with the show. She moved on to other things, and she was working a lot. So she just didn't have the time to commit. But it's been over a year now. We wound up filling that seat. So we got another gentleman on board, and
Yay.
it's two guys, two girls. We're like a family now. So
Awesome.
shout out to my team at the Intimate Room Podcast.
Shout out to the intimate team. Did I say it right?
The Intimate Room Podcast.
Shout out to the Intimate Room podcast.
Yes, and so we talk about all sorts of things. It's been a while since we've had a guest. We had a guest a few months back. She was awesome. Uh, let's see where we're going with this. I'm super excited. This is the first time I'm sharing it with anybody because it's super, super new for us.
Woohoo!
But yeah, our producer, Victor Silas, just got into tech,
Shout out
tech
to Vic.
jobs. Yes. And he's like, he was talking about it, when he first, I'm trying to, oh, there it goes. He was talking about it when he first got in a couple weeks back. And he's like, I'm the only black guy there in the room. And they got 100 something employees. And I'm the only black guy there. And he's not a black American. He's from Nigeria. He's African, right?
Oh, okay.
So we're like, and on top of that, you're Nigerian. So it's still different. So he's like, me and my friend were talking, and because when they come here, of course, who they relate to, even though it's not always like that, they relate to Black Americans. But we
Mhm.
got all these stereotypes of Africans and people of other cultures that we're prejudiced to people from other countries.
Sad.
The American race is such a racist culture,
But
and we're so
unfortunately, it was
divided
embedded
and
in us.
segregated. And so that's what we talk about on the show a lot too, is like the stereotypes and all these walls that people after all these years, like, it still exists. Anyway, long story short, he's like, you know what, I want to create it so that I'm teaching black boys the jobs that are available in tech. They are great paying. These are six-figure jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see more people who look like me in this line of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, yes. And I'm like, I talk about that a lot. Like, I told my kids, I tried installing them when they were younger, like, listen, you don't need to do what's custom and traditional. You just need to do what works for you, but make it work. Like, if you don't feel like you're going to go to college and know exactly what you want to do, but maybe you're just a labor worker or you're just going to be a worker bee, like,
Mm-hmm.
do that, but strive for that and be the best version of that. And
Exactly.
there's not just teaching jobs and nursing jobs. Like, you don't just have to do what we're familiar with or what you think is acceptable to be accomplished. Like, there's all these other lines of works and industries, and you can be successful doing that and make just as much, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to open your mind and yourself to, how do I get that resource and how do I learn about it, learn that skill, and then later obtain that job or that career. But you
Right.
gotta be open minded. So I think he just said this past Wednesday we recorded a couple shows, and he's like, yeah, guess what? Like, I'm ready to teach. So if you guys want to be part of the first people that I teach, then I'd love to teach you and expose you to the jobs that are out there, because there's so many jobs. And I'm like, hell yeah, because I am underpaid. I don't make enough, and I need to make a living for myself because I'm stressed about bills and I still feel unaccomplished. And I love what I do with fashion, modeling. I love that. But unfortunately, doesn't always pay my bills. And You know, I haven't opened up a fans page yet because I don't want to be a, like I'm trying to save my reputation. So, for some people it works, but I don't know that at my age that I have the time and to commit to something like that. But if I have to, like if this don't work, then I might just do that.
There
But
you
for right
go.
now, like I want to learn something else that I take some pride in. And so he talked about that. So I've been on the show now for a while, and you know, I went on there and I'm like, hey guys, like when they got to know me, I'm like, all right, look, I have a certain professionalism about me, but if we're gonna be in a comfortable setting, then I'm gonna talk like me, and I
Mhm.
am totally unfiltered. So I'm Erica, Ericca Marie Avila, the unfiltered mommy. And so I'm like, I cuss, I talk like a trucker. I'm open. I might say something that someone's not going to like, or I'm going to say some stuff that I went through. Might make somebody uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable sometimes, but it might make somebody else uncomfortable. But guess what? I am having unfiltered, authentic conversations, and that's what you're going to get with me.
Love it. I need to go on your podcast.
Yes, for sure.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to tell them that I met you. Now that I know some of your story, that there's a whole topic around that.
yeah, yeah.
That and that people are afraid to expose that truth. Not afraid, but it's like,
They are afraid. They are afraid because of criticism and
yeah,
victim blaming and victim shaming. So
yeah.
we need to obliterate that.
I thought earlier, this is where I was going a little bit earlier. I was saying that I thought to myself, like, if we get out of the state of being a victim, we can actually survive.
Yeah,
So if you just get out of like, what? I'm a survivor. I'm going to get through this.
right.
Like, yeah, at one point, someone can make you a victim.
Uh-huh.
You can fall into being a victim without volunteering for that. And
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that you have to understand, like, you know what? I didn't choose here. Like, I didn't voluntarily come into this shit.
Hmm. Exactly.
Like I was manipulated, or it didn't just happen,
Right.
from one day to the next. Like I accidentally got here, but
Yeah.
and sometimes you don't know how, especially if you're dealing with a financial hardship or you're codependent,
Yeah.
and when they're tearing you up mentally and emotionally,
Yeah.
it's hard to walk away because you were already vulnerable at one point, or this is coming from someone who once had you on a pedestal and adored you. And now they take that from you.
Yeah.
So it's hard to let that sink in while you're going through it. And they're still just punching you. It's
Absolutely.
not that you're weak. They put you in a corner,
Right.
and it's hard to start all over again. It really is.
Absolutely.
So we definitely got to continue this conversation.
Yes, we do. Because we have talked so much. We have to do a part two of this.
We will.
But before we leave, do you have any parting words for our other visitors?
Do I have any what?
Parting words for our visitors.
Yeah, I just want to say hi to everybody. I want you guys to know that there are genuine, loving people, caring people still in this world. We can't let the ugliness of what's going on around us consume us. And if we just stay positive and understand, like, okay, if, you know, a lot of negativity is going on, if that's the case, then just try to remain positive and look at things like an optimistic, like rather than saying the glass is half full, or half empty, it's half full.
Mhm.
So, set boundaries if someone's taking advantage of you or an energy stealer and sucking. the energy from you and you feel drained,
Yes.
then it's time to like understand that the problem isn't you, it's probably them. And we can have control of our own lives. And I think that that's when you come to a realization of saying, I want better for myself,
Mhm.
and no matter how long it's going to take me to get there, I'm going to do, whatever it takes. It's not going to be easy.
Mhm.
I don't think it's going to be easy, but it will be rewarding.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, guys, that concludes our show, The World of Ozzy. I'd like to thank our lovely guest, Erica Maria Avila,
Thank
for
you.
gracing us with her presence. We definitely got to do a part two on this. So for now, this is The World of Ozzy Pearl. It's my world. And thank you for stopping by. Bye.
Bye.